Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? It was what a disappointing loss for the New Orleans Saints. A lot of you checked on me on Sunday to see if I had a voice. Rest assured, when expectations are lowered, the disappointment level is lowered. Didn't have great expectations for the Saints in this game. They got routed in Carolina a year ago. Was certainly confident in the Saints' defense against that Carolina offense. And they did play well defensively, save one play. And maybe two, but it converted a 3rd and 14. But the screen pass to Chenault that he housed was just a backbreaker after you'd gotten yourself back in the game. But the defense played well. The offense, same old song and dance. You are 3 games in now, and without the fourth quarter against Atlanta, your offense is just woeful. All 14 points yesterday came in the fourth quarter as well, and the Saints are moving the ball in the fourth quarter, but they're digging themselves too deep of a hole right now because of the offense's inability throughout the course of the game. And maybe the most disappointing part about that loss is what happened in Tampa. We talked about it last week, all of the struggles that Tampa has had offensively, and then you take Mike Evans off the field, in comes Green Bay. Green Bay was able to beat Tampa, and the Saints beat Carolina. You're 2-1. Now, obviously Tampa's got the head-to-head, but you maintain pace with them in the division. And instead, you lose to Carolina, you fall to 1-2. That's 2 division losses on a day when Tampa lost to Green Bay. Just a lot on the line yesterday. It's early in the season. It's only week 3. But there was a lot on the line in that game in Carolina. And so many of your self-inflicted wounds cost you. The big picture is, no, a loss to Carolina, falling to 1-2, does not end your season. Okay, I think most people probably know the statistic. If you start 0-2, there's a less than 10% chance of making the playoffs. It's weird, but honestly, your odds of making the playoffs at 0-2 are less than your odds of making the playoffs at 0-3. So that's bizarre, I know, but the teams that start 0-2, you've got a less than 10% chance of making the playoffs. So the fact that the Saints are already at 1-2, it's not panic time. I mean, you can look around the league and see a lot of good teams that are sitting at 1-2. The Bengals are 1-2. Do you think anybody in Cincinnati is panicking? That's a good football team that was in the Super Bowl a year ago. They lost a couple of close games, early games they could have won, and they'll likely get back on track. The Tennessee Titans, I mean, they're the reigning 1 seed in the AFC. They started 1-2. You get it. So I'm not going to freak out over the Saints being 1-2, but it's how you looked in the 1-2 start that's really concerning, because you can see what's ahead and see how things can start to unravel if you don't right this ship very quickly. One of the things that we talked about when we looked at the Saints' schedule was, hey, look, you've got to get off to a good start, and you've got to come through those first 5 games, meaning when you get back from London against Seattle, you got to get through your first 5 games with a winning record, because look at what's ahead. You're home against Cincinnati. Short week, you're at Arizona, Thursday Night Football. I don't care how good or bad Arizona is. Anytime you have to travel on a short week for Thursday Night Football, it is a tough thing to do. Then you're home against the Raiders and the Ravens, 2 very tough games. You're on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. You're home against the defending champion Rams. And then back-to-back weeks, you're traveling across the country. You go to the 49ers, and then you're at Tampa. It's just not easy. I mean, like, you have the meat of your schedule coming. So you've got to get yourself ahead in these first 5 games, which means this week in London and next week at home against Seattle are just critical because primarily of what happened in Carolina yesterday. I know there's a lot of people that want to bench Jameis Winston. By the way, can you play Allen number 11 after the game? He was adamant about Jameis Winston being their guy.
No. Look, we all have to play better, and so I'm not looking to single anything out. Obviously, we got to make some corrections, and we got to do a better job as a group.
So he was asked if they were planning on sitting Jameis Winston or making a change. And the crazy thing is when you look at the yardstick, the Saints outgained the Panthers 426 to 293. The Saints threw for 342, Carolina 148. Now, Carolina did run for 145 yards, and McCaffrey had 100 yards rushing, 25 for 108. But your self-inflicted wounds killed you in this game. Y'all know that I was very pro-Jameis when they signed him. I was very good with them re-signing him and seeing how these next couple of years go with him to see if he's a guy that can be your guy long-term. And I'm not going to punt on that after a couple of games. What I'll say today is the same thing I said last Monday. You have a guy that is playing with a literal broken back. And he is struggling to get this offense going. You can look and say, man, he threw for 353 and a score. That's true. A lot of it was in comeback mode late in the game, as we saw, as we've seen now for 3 games. But the other point that's also fair to mention about the game against Carolina is that it was not all Jameis. Jameis Winston didn't fumble, which led to Carolina's first touchdown. That was your captain and one of your best offensive players in Alvin Kamara. Jameis Winston didn't miss a field goal. That was Will Lutz. Jameis Winston didn't have a field goal blocked. That was, well, your protection. But Jameis Winston didn't allow Laviska Shenault to take a screen pass and run 65 yards for a score. So I'm not absolving Winston. He was bad, objectively bad. And I think the accuracy is clearly an issue, and that's, I think, in large part due to what's going on with his back, whether he'll acknowledge it or not. We've seen him be better. And I think his decision-making needs to improve as well. The example I'll give you is before half when the Saints had the field goal blocked, they were facing a 3rd and 3 from just outside the 10-yard line. You had 2 timeouts, and there were about 38 seconds left. Throw the ball underneath, get the first down, call timeout, take 3 shots into the end zone. Instead, he never looked off of Jarvis Landry, threw a fade that wasn't close, and they have a field goal blocked. And if you go back and look, Alvin Kamara was sitting right in the middle of the field. I actually screen grabbed this and tweeted it, but Alvin Kamara was sitting right in the middle of the field with no defender near him. I mean, Alvin Kamara would have very easily had the first down. And I mean, there's the shot if you're watching on YouTube. I mean, dump it to Kamara underneath. He has the first down, call a timeout, take 3 shots into the end zone. But he never looked off of Jarvis, through a fade, a low percentage route that wasn't even close, and you have a field goal blocked. I mean, those are the types of plays where you can say decision-making, yes, that mattered right there. So, I mean, it was very disappointing. If you're looking at the good that came away from it, your defense was fantastic again. Pete Werner continues to show out. Double-digit tackles again. On a day where your defense had to toughen up and keep the team in the game while the offense tried to play catch-up. They did, by and large, throughout this game do that. So, I think your defense is fantastic. You played a game without Taysom Hill, without Deontay Hardy, which I think, as good of a change of pace as Taysom can be, not having him there obviously mattered. But this is a team that's got to find itself offensively, because defensively you are plenty good enough. And I think Will Lutz can still be an elite kicker, although that's a big concern now. Will Lutz has missed a kick in each of the first 3 games of this season now. And as much as that cost you a year ago, and we celebrated Lutz coming back, that confidence hasn't been rewarded so far this year. Lutz has missed a kick in each of the first 3 games. That's got to get better. But your defense is plenty good enough. We think Lutz can be plenty good enough as well in the kicking game. The offense has got to do its part. It's got to pull its own weight. And if you were going to be bullish about Jameis being okay despite his back injury, then you're going to die on that hill. You're either going to live or die on that hill. And he's just got to play better if you're going to ride with him. And that's got to start this week because you have too much on the line. If you lose in London, you fall to 1-3. And then you got to do the international travel. I know you're playing a home game, but you're going to travel on Sunday. Monday's a wash. Tuesday's a normal day off. You're talking about a really quick turnaround to try to play that game against Seattle. I know Seattle's not a great team, But that is a steep climb. If you fall there and then you're looking at 1-4 with the murderer's row you have ahead of you, your season's over before it starts. So just a massive week for New Orleans this week, coming off a disappointing loss in Carolina. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.